Most people don't realize they've lost respect until it's already gone. Because disrespect rarely arrives loudly. It doesn't usually come as open humiliation or direct confrontation. It comes quietly. It shows up in the tone people use with you, in the joke they suddenly feel comfortable making, in the way they interrupt you without apologizing, in the messages they stop answering with urgency. It comes as a subtle shift that tells you something has changed, even if nobody says it out loud. And the worst part is this: while it's happening, your mind keeps telling you everything is normal. Most people think respect disappears in one dramatic moment. They imagine betrayal, rejection, a public insult. But that's not how it usually works. Respect is rarely destroyed all at once. It erodes slowly, through patterns, repeated signals, and small moments that seem harmless on their own, but together reveal something darker. Your presence is starting to lose weight. That is why this matters so much. Respect shapes your image, your confidence, your authority, and the way other people calculate how far they can go with you. Once you understand that, you start noticing something uncomfortable. People do not only react to who you are, they react to what your behavior allows. And that leads to a brutal question almost nobody wants to ask. At what point did people begin treating you with less regard without you even noticing? Because losing respect is not an event, it is a process. And today we're going to break down 7 signs that process may already be happening in your life. You've probably felt this before without fully understanding it. Someone cuts you off mid-sentence, as if what you were saying no longer needs to be finished. You keep doing favors, keep being flexible, keep being understanding, and instead of appreciation, people grow increasingly casual with you. You try to be calm, accessible, easy to deal with, and somehow your image starts shifting from composed to easy to overlook. This is where the discomfort begins. People like to believe that kindness automatically creates respect, that being available makes you appreciated, and that explaining yourself makes people understand you better. But in real life, that is often not how human behavior works. Respect is deeply tied to perception, boundaries, consistency, and the sense that your words have weight. And when those things begin to weaken, people usually notice before you do. That's why this topic hits so hard. Because it doesn't ask whether you are a good person. It asks whether your behavior is slowly teaching others to treat you like someone whose presence no longer changes the room. Sign 1. You explain yourself too much. The first sign is one of the most dangerous because it often looks like politeness. You make a simple decision, say no, set a limit, change your mind, and immediately feel the need to justify it. You start over-explaining, softening your position, and trying to make the other person comfortable with your choice before you can feel comfortable with it yourself. It seems harmless, but psychologically it communicates something costly, that your word alone does not feel sufficient, that your decision still needs approval, that your boundary is not final until someone else emotionally accepts it. And people feel that. They learn that if they pressure you enough, you start scrambling. If they react badly, you start negotiating your own position. This is one of the clearest ways respect begins to leak. Not because explaining is always wrong, but because excessive explanation often signals insecurity more than clarity. Sign 2. You are always available. The second sign is subtler, but just as destructive. You are always there, always replying quickly, always adjusting, always understanding, always making space, always saying yes. Most people think this makes them valuable. In reality, it often makes them easy to use, because what is always available tends to lose gravity. If your time, energy, and attention can always be accessed without resistance, people stop treating them as something that must be respected. You begin to lose shape. You become convenient instead of valued. That's one of the most painful transformations a person can go through without noticing. You think you are being generous, but in the eyes of others, you may slowly be becoming predictable, low risk, and easy to deprioritize. And before we go deeper, subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Deep psychological truths, timeless philosophy, and practical lessons that can change the way you see people and yourself. Sign 3. Your no doesn't carry weight. A lot of people technically say no, but their no means nothing. They refuse something, then immediately soften it, apologize for it, explain it too much, or leave the door open. And when that happens, your no stops functioning as a boundary. It becomes a polite delay. People test this faster than you think. First with mild pressure, then with insistence, then with emotional leverage. If every limit you set can be pushed, stretched, softened, or reversed, people learn that your boundaries are mostly symbolic. That is one of the clearest signs of lost respect, because respect is not created by loudness. It is created by coherence, by the feeling that your words survive discomfort, that when you draw a line, it remains there even if someone reacts badly. A weak no teaches people to keep going. A real boundary forces recalculation. Sign 4. You reveal too much of yourself too early. This sign shows up a lot in thoughtful, emotionally intelligent people. They want to be understood, they want to connect, they want to be authentic, so they talk openly about themselves, their emotions, their past, and their inner world before the other person has earned that level of access. It feels honest, but often it is a hidden request for validation. And when you expose too much too early, you lower your own position. You give people emotional access before they have demonstrated depth, loyalty, or maturity. You reveal your inner structure before they have proven they can respect the outer one. Respect does not grow from overexposure. It grows from timing, self-possession, and the sense that there is more to you than what is immediately available. Not everyone deserves full access to your vulnerability, because when familiarity arrives before reverence, respect starts to rot. Sign 5. People feel too comfortable dismissing you. This is the sign that hurts the most once you finally see it. People don't necessarily insult you or openly reject you. They just become increasingly comfortable treating you like someone who can be postponed, interrupted, ignored, spoken over, or lightly dismissed. Your opinions are heard but not felt. Your messages are answered casually. Your time is taken for granted. Your presence stops altering the room. People don't hate you. They simply stop adjusting around you. And that's worse, because open conflict at least acknowledges your weight. Silent downgrading does not. It turns you into someone who can be moved around socially without consequence. That is the moment many people finally start sensing something is wrong, but they still tell themselves a comforting story. They say people are just busy, stressed, distracted, and sometimes that's true, but sometimes the deeper truth is more painful. The pattern has already changed, and your behavior helped teach it. Sign 6. You want to be understood more than you want to be firm. This one is deeply psychological because it hides inside empathy. You don't like conflict. You value understanding. You want harmony. So every time something feels off, your instinct is to explain yourself better, soften your point, and make sure the other person gets it. But here is the truth that almost nobody wants to hear. Not everyone wants to understand you. Some people just want to see how far they can go with you. That single realization changes everything, because it means your long explanations are often wasted. Your effort to be fair does not always create respect. Sometimes it simply signals that your need for understanding is stronger than your willingness to hold a boundary. And when people sense that, they recalculate your value downward. You do not need to become harsh, but you do need to stop assuming that clarity alone will protect your position. Sign 7. You keep the peace, even after it starts costing your dignity. This is the final sign, and maybe the most destructive of all. You can feel that something is wrong. You can sense that the respect is fading. You notice the tone, the imbalance, the shift. But instead of addressing it, you keep smoothing things over. You stay agreeable. You keep tolerating. You keep preserving harmony long after harmony has become self-betrayal. From the outside, that can look like maturity, but internally it does something corrosive. Because every time you choose false peace over self-respect, your mind registers it. Every time you accept what diminishes you just to avoid tension, something inside you weakens. And here comes the hardest truth in the entire video. Most people do not lose respect from others first. They lose respect for themselves first, silently, gradually, repeatedly. The world just notices later. This is the part almost nobody wants to admit. You are not ignored by accident. You are not repeatedly being treated lightly for no reason at all. In many cases, people are responding to a pattern you have been signaling for a long time. That is brutal to hear because it removes the comfort of blaming everyone else. But it is also the beginning of power, because if a pattern was built, it can be broken. The real trap is that your brain often rewards the very behavior that destroys your position. Every time you avoid conflict, you get temporary relief. Every time you explain yourself and the tension drops, you get temporary relief. Every time you say yes to avoid disappointing someone, you get temporary relief, and your mind starts associating self-abandonment with safety. That is why this pattern becomes addictive, not because it helps you, but because it soothes you in the short term, while quietly weakening you in the long term. But there is one part of this that almost nobody has the courage to face. The person who keeps getting disrespected is often not weak in ability. They may be smart, kind, observant, emotionally deep, even morally strong. But if their actions repeatedly communicate flexibility under pressure, fear of disapproval, and low resistance to emotional testing, the world responds to that signal more than to their internal qualities. That is why this issue becomes so painful over time, because you know what you are worth internally, but your external pattern keeps inviting treatment that contradicts it. And after enough repetition, one part of you feels deeply unseen, while another part already knows why. If this makes you uncomfortable, good. That means you're finally seeing the pattern clearly. Because here is the truth you may have been avoiding for years. Respect is not a reward for being good. It is not automatically given to the kindest person, the most patient person, or the one who sacrifices the most. Respect is a response to boundaries, consistency, self-possession, and the ability to withstand discomfort without collapsing. That does not mean becoming aggressive. It means becoming solid. And if you never learn that, people will keep mistaking your softness for weakness, your openness for availability, and your kindness for negotiability. So what changes this? Not fake confidence, not becoming cold, not acting like a villain. The shift begins when you stop negotiating your own position every time someone reacts badly to your boundaries. That is the key. Everything changes when you realize that another person's disappointment is not proof that you did something wrong. Often it is simply proof that they were benefiting from your lack of firmness. If you want to break this pattern, start with 3 things. First, stop over-explaining simple decisions. A calm sentence carries more authority than a nervous paragraph. Second, let your no survive the initial discomfort. Respect begins to return the moment people realize your boundary does not disappear under pressure. Third, stop giving unlimited access to your time, attention, and vulnerability. Not everyone deserves the full version of you. This is not cruelty, it is structure, and structure is dignity. You do not need to dominate anyone. You just need to stop abandoning yourself in order to remain emotionally acceptable to everyone else. Losing respect without realizing it is one of the quietest things that can happen to a person. There is no warning alarm, no official moment, no clear announcement. You just slowly begin to feel that something has shifted in the way people respond to you. And usually, something has. But the good news is that respect can return quietly too. It returns when your words become shorter, when your limits stop apologizing for themselves, when your energy stops begging to be accepted, when you understand that being calm does not mean being easy to step over, and that being a good person does not require becoming a small one. So maybe the real question is not whether people have changed. Maybe the real question is, in how many areas of your life have you been calling it peace when it was really the slow loss of your position? And if this video gave you clarity, subscribe to the channel and stay with me here, because this channel is for people who want to understand power, human nature, and the psychological truths that most people spend their whole lives avoiding.